Well, hello everybody. So Brandon here again with the Desert Rat. We're working on the AMC 304 engine block. A lot of people, when I go to rebuild an engine or when I go to sell a rebuilt engine, an engine that I've rebuilt, I have a lot of people that ask me, how do I make sure that the engine block is okay to rebuild? Well, there's a lot of engine blocks I see that aren't okay to rebuild, and there's a lot that are. You do have to have some precise instruments to be able to figure it out. One being a straight edge here where you can measure the flatness of these decks. Here we got, the driver's side engine cylinders here, and here's a straight edge. Now this comes from OEM tools, and this is a 100% straight edge. All along that line is 100% straight. Now you do have certain tolerances that you find in your manuals for the engine block that you're going to be rebuilding or working on, and it'll tell you the tolerances of your spaces that you can, not have to worry about. So on this one, on all of mine, I measure with 15,000. So if you can look right here, that's a 15,000th little strip of steel here, and I use this when I go to measure, an engine block, whether the deck here is flat or not. You have to do this, and you have to do this in multiple locations. So you come back over here and you go through all of this area. So this one, it kind of wants to go underneath right there, but it can't. But right here, okay, so right there, you got a little bit of a low spot, but then it jumps back up right here. Typically, like right there, see that? Now right there, that's something that we need to look at again. Oh, I'm on top of something. Oh, okay, see there. So yeah, so that's actually nothing to worry about. So, and then what you do is you go on an angle this way, so you can check it this way, this way, forward, back. You measure all the different angles you can to see if it's not flat or level. And if it's not level, then obviously you don't want to rebuild the engine block. You don't want to rebuild the engine if the engine block surface here is not flat. So that's why you buy, these measuring tools. And you have to do this on every single engine that you're going to rebuild. You can't do it on some or others. You have to do it on every single one, because you don't want to rebuild the engine and have it go wrong and have it roll back to you and have issues like that. You don't want that. So for me, when I'm looking at an engine to rebuild, I measure every single direction I can to try and find if there's low spots on the deck. If there's low spots on the deck, you gotta send it to a machine shop to have it looked at. This deck right here is fine. It's all within spec, so it doesn't have to be redone. But this deck right here, it hasn't even been cleaned yet. So that's my next task, is I'm gonna clean this up and measure this deck as well. But this one had a coolant problem. You can tell just by looking at the head gasket marks. There's definitely some coolant problems. I've cleaned this thing a couple times already, but this thing had a coolant leak right here. You can tell it was leaking coolant into the cylinders and here as well. It was rusting back here on this back lip, so I know that coolant was coming out this way as well. But that's a thing you run into with these old AMC engines, is they have coolant or cooling problems, and everything has to be done really, really well. Otherwise, you do run into issues with these AMC blocks. But thanks for tuning in. I'm glad I could talk to you today about how to measure the flatness of your deck on your engine block here. But thank you for tuning in. Have an excellent evening.
The sunset's so perfect, so do it now before you lose your light.
We'll come in closer just so I can introduce what I'm doing.